stand. Ready to do the Pledge of Allegiance? Austin, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to just move this around a little bit. We've got a couple of people here from Parker Village that have to get on the road. So, Fred, if you would.
Sure, I'll just let this warm up. Approximately 6 months ago, we had a meeting where there was community concern about community involvement at some of the rental properties in town, specifically Parker Village. The hearing was conducted, and the final report was that we would come back and revisit the issue 6 months hence. The management at Parker's Village has been working diligently and has been able to make some changes in the management structure there, and while it hasn't seen a elimination of calls, we certainly have seen a leveling off of calls for service compared to earlier years. What I've done in this report is shown the trends from 2008 to 2013, with 2013 prorated through the end of August, and then projected on a per unit basis through the end of the year. So even though the raw numbers are in that next to the last column, the final column is what it would look like if those were continued at the historic yearly rate. So I've highlighted calls per unit over 3 in green, over 4 in red, and you can see that there's been a decline in Parker's Village in total calls since 2008. There's been a decline in the Crane Street project since 2008. Interestingly, some of the other units we've seen an increase at the Amanuset Green, peaking out in 8 calls per unit in 2010, and a slight reduction, and then Amanuset Green 51 Amanuset, there were some very high numbers in 2008 through 2010, and then we've seen a trailing off of that also. So those are the raw numbers. I'm not involved in the daily management of that facility. We have Pauline DeNatale here, who is the manager, and Paul Stewart, who is the property owner, that I think would like to give you a brief update.
Okay. Natalie.
I will hand you a copy of what the notes I put together.
Can I get one more for the selectman that isn't here?
Sure.
Margie's not here, and I'll just...
Okay.
Is she not here today?
No, she's still at rest. She's coming back tomorrow.
I will read this, but I just want to start off by saying that on the police reports that we get every week from Littleton Police, we have only received 8 press releases from the Littleton Police. So even though there may be calls for service, there was only 8 that required a police investigation. 4 were residents and 4 were non-residents. So having said that, I will just read what I have here. Since we last met in January, there's been several positive changes at Parker Village. We have established an open line of communication with the Littleton Police Department and their officers. We receive weekly police reports, which are reviewed very carefully. We are happy to report that the number of police incidents has dropped dramatically. We are being very diligent in addressing any incident as it occurs. This has resulted in the termination of the lease of 3 residents and a no trespass order issued against a man who was arrested at Parker Village, who was neither a resident nor a guest. We also received detailed reports regarding any questionable activity from a reliable resident. We receive these reports as soon as an incident occurs, and the appropriate action is then taken. The Neighborhood Watch program was discussed with Police Chief Smith. We did not think it would work at Parker Village. We feel that the police reports we receive weekly, along with the detailed reports from our resident, are the most effective way to keep the problems at a minimum. Moreover, in reviewing the incidents that have occurred in the last 8 months, all but one took place within the dwelling units. And that incident involved a man, again, who was not a resident or a guest. In February, we had a Valentine party for the children. They made Valentines for the other children who did not attend. This helped me address the issue of bullying and discuss being kind to all the children, even the ones you don't particularly like or play with. Our children's library continues to be very popular. In the 3 years since the library was established, there has never been a lost or damaged book. And I will interject, I did have my doubts when we started this, but I'm pleasantly surprised. In May, a few of the children held a car wash, and many of the residents were happy to have their car washed for a charge of $2. In June, we had a Schools Out pizza party. It was a big success, and fortunately, we had an empty apartment available, so we didn't have to contend with the rain, which we had for the entire month. We had 29 adults and 21 children. In August, I coordinated a program with the outreach group from the United Methodist Church. They provided backpacks and school supplies to any interested resident of Parker Village. Last April, I started a mentoring program with several young girls from Parker Village. They were taught various office procedures. This stopped for the summer and has recently started up again. There are currently 3 girls, and I would imagine that once word gets out, more will join. They come running to my office 1 day a week after school and are always excited to learn new things. We have contacted all our neighbors surrounding Parker Village, and none of them had any problem with Parker Village. Therefore, we did not feel that a fence was necessary. We certainly would consider this if it ever became an issue. We continue to conduct criminal background checks and obtain landlord references on all applicants. This information is used to determine whether or not an applicant is approved or denied. We are pleased with the decline of police activity and feel confident that it will continue. Now, the reason why I brought out the things that we do is to just emphasize once again, as we did previously, that Parker Village is a community. It is not just buildings that people occupy. They all consider it their home, and they all feel that it's safe, and it's a place they are proud to live at.
Thank you. And you're all set?
I'm all set.
Okay. Any comments? Sounds good to me.
Thank you very
Cool.
much.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, do we recess that, then go into the hearing, or just bring in the hearing?
I think we ought to go right to the hearing.
Okay, all right, we're going to proceed with the hearing on the Skeeto. And who is speaking to that?
I am.
Okay.
Could I just give a brief introductory comment? If you recall, at town meeting, Article 26, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a 2- or 3-year lease with the Mount Eustace Ski Hill Group for up to 33 acres of town-owned property, known as the Mount Eustace property, tax map 9233, under terms negotiated and agreed upon by the Mount Eustace Ski Hill Group and the town of Littleton in consultation with the Parks and Recreation Commissioners. We have work closely with Dave and the Ski Hill Group and come up with a draft lease. We can go through it. The provisions of the lease, the premises, it identifies the property, 33 acres. The term of the lease, 3 years, commencing October 1, ending September 30th, 2016. That's as per approval by town meeting. Term will automatically expire unless we give notice 6 months prior to the end. The lease payment shall be $1 a year. Ski Hill Group will be responsible for all utilities. Insurance, this has not been finalized on the insurance. The Ski Hill Group did have a meeting with the Parks Commissioners, and we generally talked about a $1 million policy. I have not seen a copy of that policy yet, so hopefully that will be forthcoming. As well as they have to have insurance on their buildings and equipment, provide us with proof of that insurance, and have a notice of 30 days prior to any termination of that. There's a indemnification provision where they indemnify the town. It is non-assignable. They are allowed to alter the lease at their expense. However, the alterations have to be approved by the town or the Rec and Parks Commission prior, and meet any building health, life safety code, fire codes. The town understands that they will be operated by a 501c3 company. That has been applied for but has not yet been received. Is that correct, Dave?
Correct.
So that will need to be effected before this can become valid. As part of a 501c3, they will not be responsible for federal taxation. Additionally, because they are providing charitable services to the town, they will also be exempt from local taxation. They are going, in Appendix A is hopefully what Dave is going to be talking about, which is really the details of the ski area proposal. But I just wanted to get through some of the main provisions of the lease first. Timber cutting, noise, signage are all issues that will be addressed in David's discussion. Sanitary facilities, they need to provide. Repairs and maintenance, they'll be responsible for all the maintenance and repairs at the facility. Any approvals must go by the Rec and Parks Commission or their designee. If there's any loss of use due to natural causes, the town will not be responsible to the Mount Eustace Ski Group for any loss of use. Modifications just talks about it could be modified. Severability, if any provision is deemed non-enforceable, the rest of it remains in force. This is the entire agreement. Be governed by the laws of the state of New Hampshire. Compliance with other laws, they'll be responsible for complying with other laws, including the ADA, American Disability Act. As I mentioned before, property taxes, they will not be subject to property taxes as long as they continue with their charitable operations. Any default, if they fail to perform, there's a 30-day curing period for them to cure any defaults. If at the end of that, then we can take further action. And that is a very quick overview of the lease. And Dave, if you could go over in more detail what the ski area group plans, that would be helpful.
Sure. Tried to highlight things so it was a little bit more visible to people in the whole room here, so everybody can see it. The yellow that you see up here is the existing slope. This is the bottom of the hill, this is the top of the hill. This is the existing rope tow line that was there, but nothing there is usable. And our plan is to not only clear out the existing slope, cut another trail that's kind of a U-shape that goes out a little bit narrower, 50 to 100 feet wide, down through the woods and coming back at the bottom. and then thinning out the trees in here, which was hard to show with Gardner Kellogg software, but this would be a graded area similar to some of the easier graded areas that you see at like Breton Woods. We feel that by doing this, one of the problems with a lot of ski hills, it gets boring for kids. If there's only one run, they do 3 runs and they're done. This should have enough interest for everybody to keep them involved for a full afternoon or a full day of skiing. Our current plan is to have lighting on the main slope, hopefully in the future down the second slope, but the woods would never be lit for nighttime. We have a building that's been donated by Home Depot. That's going to be our warming hut. It'll be down at the base, sitting on a pad slab of cement probably. The rope tow itself is about 1,300 feet long. It will be gas powered. We took possession of the Lisbon rope tow, and Building and Trades is, not Building and Trades, but Auto Mechanics at the Voc is rehabbing the motor, thanks to Dan Brodeen and his students. We have contracted out for a rope tow design with Ross Stevens of Stevens Engineering. He designs most of the lifts, be it rope tows, trams, quads, whatever, in the Northeast. That's what he does. So we realized that we were going to need a real design because none of us build rope tows. So that is in process. This brown line going along the bottom here is a rerouted snow machine trail. Unfortunately, Darren got a little bit backwards in the article because, boy, I didn't feel like any blisters on my hand. We don't have it done yet. The article in the paper says it's done, but no, the grant has been granted to us, so we have a grant to move the snow machine trail. Currently, the trail goes down the lift line and then out through the parking lot. And we're going to pull it off, totally off to the side, and loop it back up through, coming out on the top. We do not want to disrupt the snow machine corridor because we realize how important that is, and that's not why we're doing this. But we do have to get them off the ski hill. We can't have a snow machine trail on the ski hill. A couple other things that we talked about. The last Selectmen's meeting I was at, I attended, we talked about that whole liability law that takes effect on January 1, 2014. So, I mean, we're late in the year, but there's no way we would start this lift up before that took effect because that law is so much stronger now. And what Fred was talking about, the operations plan. Myself and Jeffrey Lopez, who he's running late, he's getting out of work. We will be the managers. Ron LaHoot, Chris Hubble, and Herb LaHoot, we're all here. We'll also be responsible for operations. So, but if there's a first call going out, instead of wondering who to call, it's myself or Jeff Lopez first, and if we're not available, then somebody else will step up. There will be at least one of us on the hill at all times that it's open. We plan on having certified ski patrollers. We have some feelers out for people that are willing to help and help train new patrollers. Part of our document is all the responsibilities of a ski area operator under the RSA laws. We plan on following all that, obviously. We do plan to conform to all ADA regulations, helping out as much as possible. Also realizing this is a rope tow, not a lift, so how much you can do with disabilities is definitely limited, but we're more than happy to help anybody enjoy the experience as much as possible. Possible, and this is just possible, scheduling, just kind of an idea of what a schedule might look like for the ski area. So I said Monday we would be closed. Possibility of Tuesday afternoon would be high school ski team training. Wednesday would be possibly a local ski program. Thursday would be open skiing from like 3 to 7. Friday open skiing from 3 to 7 also. Saturday open skiing from 12 to 7, and possibly Sunday 11 to 4. And this is just a basic idea of what we're looking to do. We want everybody, not just kids, we also want adults, we want business people, we want organizations like the Boys and Girls Club. We want everybody, not just in Littleton but in the surrounding area, the chance to benefit from this hill. Fees and pricing. We plan on going under a donation-only basis. It will minimize our liability under the land use liability protection laws. And we were planning on charging like $5 to use the ski area anyhow, so if we have a suggested donation of $5, the added protection that we get is worth it just saying donation only. Snowmaking and grooming. It's being installed right now. No, just kidding. The biggest thing, so when we first started off talking about this, we're going to put a nice warming hut down there, and it's going to have bathrooms and running water, and you know what? We're going to have a heated shack down the bottom with a porta potty outside it, and if we're going to dig holes and put pipes in the ground, we're going to put snowmaking in, because that is way more critical than a flushable toilet to us. Grooming. We've had some discussions with area ski areas like Bretton Woods and Cannon about the possibility of them running a groomer over, once in a while. We hope to have some grooming equipment of our own, but our budget is limited. There's a Northeastern Snow Summit coming up next week down at Attach. It's a conference with all the ski areas going to be there. I'll be attending like a pauper with my hat in my hand, asking for handouts. Noise and lighting mitigation. Rope tow will be powered by a gas-powered engine. It will be enclosed in a small building at the top of the slope, and that building will be insulated with spray foam to muffle any engine noise. The exhaust will go out the far side of the building away from the abutters. The main slope will be lit using very bright flood lamps. It will be positioned on poles at the edge in everybody's houses. All the abutters are up here. So this is basically where they're going to be, and they'll be pointing that way. So they won't be shining into bedroom, bathroom windows at nighttime. Hours of operation, we're not going to be going late into the night, so I don't see the lights being on past 9 p.m. at the probably latest anyhow. Any complaints that people have will be taken seriously, recorded in writing, and we will resolve the complaints with board members along with a designated representative from the town of Littleton, which I believe Parks and Rec has voted on a person for that. And we will revisit the complaint after a time to see if it's been remediated satisfactorily. If that doesn't work, then it goes up to the town manager and then up to you folks on the select board. Logging. To remove the logs. This is all overgrown here. It's mostly brush, and this is all brush, so that's not really any timber, that's just work. The logging that has to be done is over here, thinning out through the graded area. It's not going to be a clear cut, it's selective cutting just to open up the trail. And then the other logging will have to be along this rerouted snow machine route. I'm not a logger, but my walk through looking at it doesn't say it's going to generate a whole lot of cash. Snow machine I talked about. The parking lot down at the bottom. This is the existing parking lot. This gray shaded area is designated wetlands. So without wetlands remediation, we can't go cruising across the top of that with anything. But we can fix up the existing parking lot. There's room for about 20 spaces down there and about another 5 spaces up there, which cannot be used for people coming and going because basically it's a one-way. So whoever's working the lift would park up there, and then this is for anybody that's coming. We think that most people will be, kids will be dropped off and picked up later. School programs with buses would be dropped off. It's not like the bus is going to park there the whole time. The fact that we're 2 minutes away from downtown really has a lot to say with it, and actually I hope to see kids actually walking over there with their skis in hand like the old days. Overflow parking. I have been in contact with the owners of the old hospital and have not heard back whether that lower parking lot behind the hospital could be utilized. And just today I sent an email off to Littleton Water and Light because their pump house is right across the street and there could possibly be some parking there that could be utilized. But like I said, I just sent it out today. So. And that is pretty much my spiel.
Any questions? Nope.
I have a question. Well, I thought maybe
Just,
just,
yeah, any questions?
Michelle?
Yes.
When was the last time that hill was mowed by the town?
Mode?
Mowed,
I think it was Thursday.
okay. I
That was
heard
a
about that, it looked like.
Pleasant surprise I got today with an email from Brian Hadlock saying that they got the slope mowed, which is great because it was becoming very overgrown.
That's my question.
Anyone else? Yes.
I got a big question on parking. It's, I mean, that goes into our development along here, it is a town road. Is the town prepared to put up signage on the basis of no parking along the road going into that area?
Well, I'd certainly consult with the police chief, but we will need to maintain two-way traffic on Mount Eustis Road at all
Will there
times.
be any parking on that road?
I don't know if there's enough room there or not. Chief, do you know whether there'd be room to maintain two-way traffic, emergency access, and still allow on-street parking along Mount Eustis Road?
I don't think it can be done safely at that particular roadway.
So in that case, we would post it, no parking.
So you are prepared to put some signage up there?
Yeah.
How about fencing along the property line?
There'll be a snow fence installed along the perimeter of the slope, so I think that's written in all the stuff for the ski slopes, so that's mandated around the whole existing slope.
Other questions? Bill?
David, I have a few questions regarding insurance. I've got a report here that lists 5 different ski areas in and around that area. And one has, in terms of liability coverage, $1 million, which doesn't cover snowboarding. Another one, stores, and this is kind of the basis of my question, has $1 million for each occurrence, which I think you state in your policy here, and $2 million aggregate with an excess liability policy for any additional $1 million, which is basically an umbrella policy. You make reference here to $1 million in coverage. I'm sorry, Mount Eustis ski area will obtain a commercial general liability insurance along with ski area insurance provided by Mountain Guard Insurance or other insurance companies that provides insurance to ski areas. Are you referring to an umbrella policy there as well as the million?
We're going to have a commercial liability to cover non-ski area insurance. So talking to Mountain Guard, they said they can also do the general liability policy on top of it. Most business insurance policies will not write a ski area up. I left a little bit of an open door there as far as Mountain Guard, because there are 2 other possibilities, but it would have to be up the same level of coverage that Mountain Guard would be providing.
All right, another question. On the operations plan under purpose, you indicate that to provide a very affordable scheme for area residents with no immediate taxpayer impact, which means 0, right?
Means 0.
Okay. Next slide. To keep the operation functioning year to year with minimal taxpayer impact, what kind of things do you anticipate could perhaps be brought back to us for the taxpayers to cover?
Well, the basis of that statement is, we don't want to take out of a town budget that's already a very tight budget. And to ask for money from the town or the taxpayers for something that doesn't even exist wouldn't fly. There is, the budget possibly on down the line, we hope to have this funded purely by donations. But if we create a very successful operation that a lot of kids and a lot of residents using, I would not want to rule out the possibility of writing a warrant article asking for some funding to help with the expense.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
But that would be off in the future.
Mr. Bratz, I guess what I had thought when we talked about that was that there would be some Rec and Park Commission involvement with this project. I mean, they'll be responsible for all the on-slope stuff. But if we wanted to, or the Rec and Parks wanted to plow the parking lot, that would be something that we might contribute.
That's fine. Last question has to do with ADA and safety compliance.
Okay.
Have you thought at all, or has the board thought at all about bringing in a consultant? I know the state has people that they'll send up for free usually and just look over what you've done and then make a recommendation or say it looks fine.
We haven't addressed that yet. You know, that surely is, you know, in the future as things get rolling a little bit more. Yeah, I know Gil Vickery is very good about that. And, you know, talking, setting up a meeting with him or somebody else to make sure that we are complying.
All right, thank you much.
Sure.
Is there any financing involved of the improvements to this improvement?
Have we taken out a loan?
Yeah.
So far, we've raised approximately $15,000. The general question everybody says is, how much do you need? And honestly, we don't know because we've had some great citizens in this town that have donated their services. Gardner Kellogg, Neil Stafford, Steve Smaha, all have helped really offset a lot of expenses, Home Depot. So the more that gets donated to us, whether it's in goods and services or in money, the less money we have to raise. We'll have a lot better idea once we get back our ski rope-toed design. Then we'll cost that out, then cost out the lighting too. So those are a couple of big expenses, and the insurance policy is obviously an expense. Nobody can donate that.
I'll just add one thing. We're waiting to get our 501c3 approval so we have plans to do some bigger fundraising in order to accumulate money. So we've kind of put that on hold because we didn't feel it was appropriate. So we had the lease approved in our nonprofit status, although we've sent letters out to all the major companies and community and throughout the community already.
We've done a mailing. So we are established as a non-profit corporation with the state of New Hampshire, but that is separate from a 501(c)(3). We filed for the 501(c)(3) in the beginning of July. We got a nice little letter from the IRS saying they got it. And, you know, I have no idea how long it's going to take. I would hope that, you know, as Fred was reading the lease there, saying this lease can't take effect until the 501(c) status is. I hope if it drags on that we can get the opportunity to at least move forward and try to get some work done this winter up there. Some sort of temporary or something like that to get going, because we are a non-profit. We just got to get the IRS to recognize us as one.
Okay. Bruce?
Just when the ski season is over and before the snow comes, are we going to have to be worried about any other activities up there? By this corporation?
Not in the foreseeable future that I know of. We're up to run a ski area. We're not up to hold summer events. One of the insurance companies that we're talking to really, you know, said that, you know, you have to be careful about what other events you do up there because your insurance policy isn't really designed for it. So we're going to be paying attention to that. So I don't foresee us doing other events up there.
Is that in the lease?
I did not read that in the lease.
Is it in the lease that they're not going to be utilizing the thing for other activities other than skiing?
Why shouldn't it be utilized for this?
Why should it be? Because I happen to have a corporation that owns property next to it, and we're concerned about what could be used for.
Well, it's a recreational property. So to do something other than recreation on it would be not what the land use is for, correct?
Well, I'm asking, I'm in support of your ski area, but I'm not in support of a motorcycle rally going up the hill, okay? And things of this nature on it that could happen, and that's why I'm saying that I think it should be just addressed, that the town is leasing you the property as a non-profit organization for a ski area. You're not gonna be skiing there in the summer, I hope, or I don't think you would be, but
They might invent grass skis. but
they do that.
Yes.
They used to have one out in they used to have a ski jump out on between Littleton and Bethlehem out of it. After that, they were Paul Lemire held a record out there for the.
I would say that it would not be unreasonable to put a small clause in the lease to say the lease is for a ski area, but any other uses would have to go through the contact person that's designated by the Parks and Rec Commission. So that maybe if possibly we wanted to have the possibility of a barbecue fundraiser up there, we would have to talk to Parks and Rec or something like that.
And we had mentioned that before about possibly doing it together.
Yeah.
Through Parks and Rec, for fundraisers or something as well.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's going to be opportunities in the summer to do like a mountain bike race or a mud run or...
There could be some possibilities of something like that, but...
That's what we're concerned about.
Anything like that would have to, if you...
It would have to be
I believe it's in the lease now, Bruce. If you look at this section, specific uses, that this property and ski will be operated, whose goal is to make skiing available, provide affordable skiing, snowboarding. It doesn't say that the lease is for any other purpose.
You may put a word of restriction in that first sentence. You use the word restricted. That would pretty much close it down.
But why would you want to do that? Say, for example, there's a little hut there, and say the Boy Scouts want to tent there one night, or say a lot of older people possibly would use it for walking or hiking. Why would you want to limit the recreational use? And I think the fail-safe that David had mentioned, have it blessed by the park commission.
I think what Bruce is really concerned with is dirt bike rallies.
Yeah, I understand.
We're concerned about anything that might be utilized in the off-path. We're not saying that they shouldn't be leasing it and using it for skiing, but
As long as it's not really noisy.
there's an unknown that's there, and suddenly we don't want to be faced with an unknown coming up within here that's suddenly saying, well, we can do anything we want, we have a lease.
But if it goes through the Parks and Rec, you know, if it's what was just described as a possibility, then that would be an approved activity in the summer. That could be used for Boy Scouts or whatever.
Brings up another question. Currently, the Littleton Land Sharks, the mountain bike club that I organized, has permission to use a mountain bike trail that's on that property. So the question I would pose, as I switch hats for a second, if Mount Eustace Ski Hill enters into a lease, is all of a sudden, can the mountain bike group not use that land?
And that's what I was going to bring up is and if I remember correctly, David and Fred may have to correct me on it, but was the property being removed from the town's liability once the lease is signed? I know that was in some of the discussions, but I don't know if that was going to follow through. And if that's the case, technically Parks and Rec, it's all falls under the liability of the ski area. The town's not insuring it anymore. So, and I remember we had talked briefly about possibly doing a 6-month lease, so you have it, you don't have it, or something. I don't know, but I don't know if it is going to actually fall off the town's policy. Then it can only be used for skiing if that's what the insurance is for. So.
Well, remember we were also going to have a general business commercial policy.
Right, if it covers other things, right? So.
I hike up there all summer long. If this is put in there, am I gonna be allowed to hike? If that wording is put in, am I gonna be allowed to hike up there? Or is it gonna be now no trespassing?
It's technically private property at this point.
No, it isn't. once the lease is signed, these people are gonna be irresponsible, you'll have to get permission from them.
And there should be a mechanism to allow for that to happen, you know, that would be approved.
Well, I think you have addressed it a little bit, it says that they've got to go in front of the Parks Department, how to thing on it, and get permission for any activities that they do as appropriate. And they can give permission to somebody to walk or hike.
There's also the updated land use liability laws really helping the protection. So if Michelle goes walking onto that property and goes for a hike, the landowner is not liable if she happens to get hurt, which keeps you from having to put up all no trespassing signs and everything else like that. But you know what we're talking about really is events like a motor, you know, Bruce's motocross race that I think he wants to participate in. I'm not really sure, but you know, we're saying we're going to be doing skiing. That's our primary thing. If we were to do something that's a non-ski event, we would contact our designated person, and so everybody's informed. We're not going to surprise anybody.
So that mechanism would be in place then?
Yeah.
Okay. So that shouldn't restrict anybody from doing what they've already been doing?
In another month or so, I'm going to be going out and start signing. Do you see that snowmobile trail move this year, or is it going to continue where it is for this year? And
We got to sit down and have a conversation because we have the funding. So the grant is good until June of 2014. So I'd like to get started on it. Whether we get it done, well, snow flies.
The trail's officially open, and there's no snow. December 15th is the date. So if you have the snow to groom, then that's when they'll allow us to go.
Yeah, we have to sit down and have a meeting.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if you 501c3, leave out the word tea party, will you? You might have a better chance. But the other thing is there any long-term plan for this whole thing? I know 3 years go by quickly once it's done. Have any thoughts down the road? Is there something that's going to be continued privately? Is it going to be turned over to the town, or is there any intent after the 3 years and we're headed in the long term?
I would envision, I mean, my grand scheme of this thing is I'm going to take a good hard pull up the front for a little while, and I hope some other people come up through and help. And off in the future, I would like to see the Mount Eustace Ski Hill exist very similar to like the Boys and Girls Club in North Country exists. It helps the town, but it's not owned by the town or run by the town.
My recollection of this, Eddie, and I think you remember it as well, what closed it originally was the insurance rates, the liability and the increase, wasn't it? It wasn't? What was it?
David Harris, who used to be a selectman here, also was on the, David was on the ski patrol at Cannon Mountain. And he wanted all young people to have the experience of being able to ski at big ski areas as far as that part. And it was very inexpensive. Most of the schools in turn were all doing it. And David was also on the school board. So he in turn tried to get them to stay away from this little teeny ski area and go out and give them an experience. Well, the experience now is probably $100 a day to go skiing. There's no question insurance has come around in all activities pertaining to skiing out of it. It's very expensive. That's part of why they cost so much for the lift tickets out of it. But David was very instrumental in making it more or less shut down, along with your volunteers dried up the thing on it as well.
If I could add, I'm Jeff Lopez, I'm also one of the Eustace board members. But the one thing about Eustace is it's not just, it's in the confines of Littleton, but it's the regional support that we are acquiring through the whole effort. Is what we're hoping to achieve is eventually grow the interest. I mean, the Franconia Ski Club, they're looking as far as possibly having a satellite program here. We have Burke Mountain, they're looking to, be on board with us. We have, Brenton Woods, but, there's so many people from Franconia For instance, the rope tow, I'm sure a few people know, it came from Lisbon. Lisbon Lions Club, they have an interest in seeing this be a success. So, you know, until we get all the legal needs in place and in a row, then I think that's when things are really going to start taking shape, a lot better shape. So,
Rudy?
Yes, my concern is this, that you guys are gonna charge hourly or daily if somebody comes to
We're not charging. Donation, we're not charging
It's
anything.
donation, oh, okay.
Yep, so if you show up and say, I don't have any money, but I want to ski, I say, okay.
Oh, okay, that was my minute.
And
People, they can afford, you know,
Yep.
they like to ski because it's a non-profit organization.
Yep.
They can come to you guys and you let it, you know,
Yep,
let it ride for free.
they can go, we're going to suggest a donation. If
If somebody doesn't have it.
if somebody doesn't have it, and I'm sure it's not going to be our primary thing, but I'm sure there's going to be some things where some used equipment is going to show up that, you know, these kids can use. My personal feeling is if little Johnny can't afford just, you know, the $5 that's kind of recommended as a donation to come ski, and comes up and sees us and he wants to ski, you know, maybe I hand him a shovel for 5 minutes, he can do a little bit of work and then get on that rope tow and felt like he earned his lift ticket for the day. But it is going to be donation only. So if he doesn't have the money, well, hey, that's why we're doing this.
Where can I drop off all the kids' ski equipment now?
Herb's office.
It's taking up a lot of space. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, very good. Seeing none. Yes, Chairman.
So this is the first of two hearings. We're scheduled the second hearing for the 23rd of this month, so 2 weeks from tonight. What I heard tonight was that I need to amend this lease, restricting the ski area to ski area operations without prior approval by the Rec and Park Commission. I will talk to legal counsel and insurance carriers about winter use only and the coverage vis-a-vis or lack thereof from our regular carrier. Would they cover other activities, non-winter related activities on the property? And then allow for non-competing recreational uses off-season as approved by the Park and Recreation Commission. I think those are my major takeaways. Is there anything else I'm missing?
Okay, we're good? All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got John Hennessy from the River District Redevelopment Commission. Got the two eddies there, that's like critical mass.
What's that?
I said, got the two eddies here, that's like critical mass.
Yeah, thanks.
You would take a good in there. For Marty, who isn't here. Yes, sir. That's right. Okay. Very good. And you're on.
All right. John Hennessy, resident of Littleton, chairperson of the River District Redevelopment Commission. We've been in business here for about 6 months or so since our first meeting, and thought it was an appropriate time to come and give an update.
You want to hold for a second? Thank you. Okay.
So it's been 6 months since we first met. Thought it was a good time to get back together with the select board and to give you an update on where we're at now. And I'll point out that Fred is a member of the commission as well as Margie. We have Dave who's here as well. He's a member of the commission. Since the first time I've been here, I think it's important to go back and Fred and I did rehearse our slides, so Fred, every time I flip, that's a good cue for you. To go back and talk briefly about how the commission was formed in the first place. This started in September of 2012. Some local business people worked with the town to invite Plan New Hampshire to participate in a project, and that was actually a proposal that the town had sent to Plan New Hampshire. Plan New Hampshire is a statewide organization of experts, architects, planners, developers who will come to an area like Littleton and present a very formal plan to help revitalize a particular area, particularly for economic development as well as general use by the townspeople and visitors as well. Plan New Hampshire came and accepted the proposal that the town put forward, and they cited three particular reasons for that. The first one is the opportunity for commercial revitalization of the area, and I should say this started, the official name was the Saranac Street Design Charrette. So the area of focus for Plan New Hampshire was along the river corridor, primarily starting at Saranac Street, but then further expanding, which I'll talk about in a little bit. The second was opportunities for recreation and wellness, and then they particularly noted that they accepted the town's proposal because of the town's history of success, and there have been many people involved in that success over the years, of showing that the town has been able to make really solid improvements in the past, and they felt confident that if they spent their time here in Littleton, that Littleton would take the ball and run with it and really be able to continue to make improvements in the future. So the charrette came up with four primary recommendations and then some concepts of how to get it done. The first is to develop a river district. So they say a redevelopment master plan must include the entire stretch on both sides of the river. So not just look at individual pieces, but to really look at a holistic view of the area. Number two is celebrate the river, so open up views and provide safe access if possible. Number three, and this is an important one, to complement what we've done here with Main Street, not to compete with it, so to look at that as an important component of the whole. And to develop in phases. There's a lot of short-term projects as well as long-term projects, and it's important to not try to tackle everything at once, but to have a nice plan in place and to develop it over time. So the four concepts, number one is to look at the intersection for access between Meadow Street and Saranac. Some difficulty accessing there now, so come up with a better plan for people to get on the roadway there. Provide for more coherent and efficient parking and vehicle circulation. Provide safer and more welcoming pedestrian circulation and gateways to the district. And then finally, visual and physical access to the Riverwalk. So that's what came out of the original project about 12 months ago. And so then the question was, how do we move this forward? And the select board decided to form a commission, which is currently 12 members. The first meeting, as I mentioned, was in March 2013. The commission quickly renamed itself the River District Redevelopment Commission, and the scope that we chose was both sides of the river, from the old Bridge Street bridge down to Cottage Street here on this end of town. And that's in line with the recommendation that the Shred had made. So here's a list of the commission members, and rather than talk about the specific names on the list, I think it's important to talk about who's involved. We've got residents and taxpayers, town officials and planning board members, business people, Chamber of Commerce, regional agencies, and in addition to the people you see up here, there's been a lot of individuals in the town and businesses who have already helped us out and have pitched support for the project. There's also a lot of local experts with really good knowledge who have either joined the commission or committees or have said that they'd love to be involved as we move forward. So the committee is going to accomplish the goals I mentioned in three committees. First is focusing on transportation and infrastructure. There's a lot of information here. I gave you guys a copy of the handout so that we wouldn't go through it during the meeting. The second is land use and river, and finally special projects, events, and marketing. And of particular importance there in that third committee is that we really want to keep open lines of communication with the town, all the residents. This is really it's an entire town project. The 12 of us on the commission are really just representing the overall group here and are really looking for input and support of the overall community.
Hey, John, can I just ask a question? Transportation Committee Chair, you say open. I thought Alicia Vozenek from Bank of New Hampshire had accepted that. You know?
She was certainly standing in. I'm not sure if she officially accepted
Okay,
or not
okay.
at this
I'll-
point.
I'll check.
We've
I'll
got a
check
meeting
on
this
that.
week, so we'll
Okay.
see if we can pin her down on that.
Okay, good.
So planning is going on right now in all these committees. It's well underway for all the goals that we listed. Some are long-term and some are short. So what I wanted to tell you specifically here is what we're doing first and what's going to be done in the next few months. So these concepts are all coming right out of that charrette report that I mentioned. We've got a couple, what we're calling demonstration projects, to take specific components out of that charrette plan and implement them now so that we can give the community a sense of what the overall project could look like and really what that potential of the river corridor is all about and where we see the vision. The first is the Pollyanna, Vista, and Pedestrian Gateway. Fred, if you flip forward 2 more slides, I'll show you something that no one can see, but...
Sorry, that one?
Yeah, this is one of the plans that came out of that design charrette. All these little dotted lines are views and access points to get from main corridors down to the river. And we've selected one of them here to develop first because there's a town-owned piece of land that's available to us to use. So Dave Ernsberger's committee is working hard at putting the plans together, getting them approved by the town, and have that available hopefully in the next couple of months to be able to be used and to highlight the river and show what the future vision is here. There'll also be a gateway coming down from Main Street to highlight that, the view deck. Along with that, we're working on walkway and some lighting that'll take people from that deck down to the current covered pedestrian bridge. The third one there, archways. We really want to highlight the river corridor and show people how to get from our main thoroughfares, including the Meadow Street, Saranac Street intersection, as well as off of Main Street here, how to get down there. So you flip by, I think everyone saw it's a conceptual design of an archway that will introduce the area and draw people down to it.
Still misspelled.
That's just an A in there, that's all.
I didn't have edit rights to this photo, so. And it's actually going to be renamed anyway. It'll be River District going forward.
Yeah, okay.
And then starting now, every Saturday morning from 8 to noon, we're starting volunteer days with meeting points down at the Tannery Marketplace in order to start some clean up, spruce up, fix up projects down all along the north side of the river corridor here towards Main Street. So it's just a couple of visuals there and final slide. So going forward, we've been very pleased with the support we've got from the community to date. We've really got some momentum we're starting to build up, and both on the short-term projects as well as on the longer-term transportation, Riverwalk type projects that'll take some more time to complete. We'd love to have as many people involved in the project as possible, and I listed some contact info, which you guys have, and another way we're hoping to get the community outreach is we're developing a website we'll have a link to on the town's website, and so we'll list this contact information here for anyone who's interested to be able to contact the commission.
Any questions? Bruce?
Have you figured out how you're going to deal with the Shoreline Protection Act?
Yep, we're working with an expert in shoreline protection right now. We've got the DES regulations, and the town is actually applying for is a variance, Fred? From the state of
Exemption.
New Hampshire exemption.
You can get that?
Well, we don't know whether we can. We're going to try.
Doesn't it go back 250 feet now?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
It used to be 50 feet, and they moved it to 250-foot area, which means you can't cut trees in it. The river is a very pretty type of thing now, but to be able to address that thing. That river, by the way, the Ammonoosuc River is the steepest river in the world for the distance in descent. It starts at the Lake of the Clouds and ends at Woodsville, and that means that it drops almost a mile. So it's the steepest river in the world as far as the descent, dropping from the top of Mount Washington to Woodsville.
Well, that's the marking plans.
You're on the Betty.
John, I just wanted to throw on a bit of information for you. Years ago, they had problems with basically the underpinning where the snowmobile trail ran next to Walmart underneath the bridge. DOT actually contacted me at the time I was running the snowmobile club. It would have taken them 2 years to get through the red tape to fix the underpinning, all the riprap that was underneath there. Because it wasn't a trail system, it somehow trumped even the shoreline protection. In 2 days, we had a permit, we had an excavator in the river from the state because it was a trail. So you may want to talk to, I don't know who to talk to, maybe it's the Trails Bureau, whatever, but if it gets dedicated as a trail, even a footpath, and then you go back, it may trump some of the shoreline protection stuff. So
Okay.
it doesn't hurt to ask.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. Eddie?
It's also my understanding under the Shoreline Protection Act that where there's a lot of activity and congestion near the river, that they take that into consideration as an exception too. And I don't know where I heard it, but I heard it somewhere in the maintenance, but they will consider that differently than the rest of the river.
David?
Yeah, Fred can maybe speak to this better than me, but my understanding is the exemption is not that we're exempt from the same rules that the state has. It's that we're given an exemption and therefore the responsibility to oversee the implementation of those guidelines. And some of it is grandfathered because of the fact that we've had this commercial structure there for all these years. And we've used Ray Lobdell right now. He's having, I think, very good success from my conversation with him this afternoon. Good success in interfacing on our behalf to the state. And so I feel like, you know, the real issue for us is getting the viewability, getting the ability to, you know, put these viewways in that allow us to have people more enjoy the riverfront. And I feel pretty confident from my experience with the Shoreline Protection Act at our lake that we'll be successful in getting the right kind of support from the state.
Any other questions?
Let me ask a dumb question, because I ask dumb questions. The land on the other side of the river is owned by us?
No, that's private land.
It is private land. So the extent to which...
We have a right-of-way for the Riverwalk.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so what's up next? Okay, Brian, you're up.
I'm up.
You're up.
Mine's simple. I told you, Fred, it'd be 3 minutes.
Very good.
Just letting the select board and the townspeople know, Parks and Rec has installed a new playground at the Apple Commons area. Yeah, this picture. It went in with help from the community. Jeff Wynn, as usual, was there helping with his equipment from Dirt Works, and he did all the transporting of the bark mulch and whatever else we needed. It's not open yet. Basically, everything needs to sit for 72 hours, and we are having it completely fenced in, so children cannot run out into the road, parking area, etc.
Now tell me something. Do you have surveillance equipment installed down there?
Yes, hidden. It's in different areas.
Good. Have you had
it moves around, so.
Okay.
But
have you had success in?
I will tell you that all I can tell you is that the issues we were having has severely declined since we put in the equipment. So is it helping? I would say yes. Do we still have little issues here and there? Yeah, we do, because some people just don't care. But for the most part, yes, we do need funding for additional cameras. There are places that we just, you know, you got to put in more. They all can't reach everywhere. And I was also putting a plea out to businesses, public, whoever. We are still looking for donations. We did get a grant for this that paid for a large portion of it, but it did not include site work, mulch, benches, fencing. Fencing alone, I think, is going to be upwards of $4,000 to $5,000. So, and that, like I said, fencing's going in. We do have support from Friends of Remick Park, which is nonprofit, and basically they're kind of, I guess you could say, lending us money to get it going in hopes that we do fundraising with them to put it back into the coffers of which it's there for, which is emergency purposes for recreational activity. But
this was really a needed project.
this is an outstanding idea. Ryan Glass had applied for the grant. Originally, they were thinking of putting it over next to the tennis courts. Jeff Brammer, who's our newest member, he actually came up with the idea of putting it down there. He's been down there so many years with his kids. He says, what a great idea to put it right there so the kids and parents can use it while others are playing in sports. And plus it's closer to the community, and it's a more centralized location. So we've got the new snack shack that we built there last year, which that was between $30,000 and $40,000. That was of little impact to the town. So it's definitely upgrading the area, along with the properties that have, residences in the area that have been upgraded as well. It's really adding it. Apthorpe's going back to what it was back, I think, in the 80s and 90s, with all the homes being fixed up and everything. So.
Questions? Zena? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, citizens' concerns. Aha. Yeah, that concerned look on your face.
Well, I may be getting ahead of myself.
There you go.
Well, but I think I'll bring it up now in case I can't get my 2 cents worth in later. But it has to do with the parking meter fund.
With the what?
Parking meter fund. It's always my favorite for enterprise system. Our enterprise system, I guess is a better way to put it. Not free, but enterprise. Yeah, and as much as I understand that we have a new meter person, and I've been watching him pretty regular, too, on the street.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Do you mind if I interject and introduce the new
I'd be
parking
happy
meter
to have you
person?
do that.
I was going to do it under
until that time, if you'd like to
the
have
town manager's report, but I think since you broached the subject, it's an opportune time. Austin Bailey, would you please stand up? Austin is the new parking meter man. He is replacing Steve Jordan, and perhaps the best said that revenues have increased under his tutelage so far, and we hope to see that continue. Chief, did you have any kind words you could say about Mr. Bailey?
Actually, I do. I mean, Austin's a great addition to the Department of Parking Enforcement. He actually came on board to help Steve. Steve had an injury back on voting day earlier this year, and Steve has elected not to return to the full-time part. And on days that Austin can't, or maybe weeks that Austin can't be there, Steve's agreed to fill in on a part-time basis, and Steve still is employed as an auxiliary. But Austin's done a great job. We've had very little complaints since he's been out there, and in fact, just some statistics. I ran from June 10th through September 4th. Last year, just in that time period, we had 395 tickets written. And the revenue off of those violations equated to $4,375. And in this time period this year, from June to September, we had 950 tickets written. Where the revenue increase was, the revenue was $6,423. That's a difference of $2,048.25, and a difference of 555 tickets. But I think the key part of this is that I've had very few complaints from the citizens. Austin's very fair. He works well with the public, and again, he's a great addition to the police department and to the town.
Thank you. Welcome aboard, Austin.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Moore, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, that's fine. You took away part of my speech, but
You may proceed.
anyway, back to the parking meter fund. The parking meter fund, I feel, is one of the incomes that the town has. Since I'm on the budget committee, I'm always concerned about incomes. And in as much as what I believe the chief has already explained, the revenue can be increased substantially at the rate that this person travels around town. Not criticizing anybody else, but these are facts in the numbers that he's presented. And I think that if we put him on another 10 hours, we can get more revenue. Which would put him, I think, from somewhere around 20 to 30 hours. But I know you get too much over 30, you're going to get in trouble with other things. But all I'm saying is perhaps the $10. Now, understand what the parking meter fund was for. Not just to collect money on tickets for people, it was put there for a purpose. And one of the purposes is to take care of the meters and take care of the person that gives out tickets and whatever it costs. It's related to taking care of the program, but also too, it's there to also fix the sidewalks to a certain extent. And I question how much we're gonna fix the sidewalks in town with that money, but it was, one of the primary intents was to be able to purchase property that would be available off the street for the purpose of off-street parking, which would help the congestion. If you go back to an old study of Mill Street, when it was originally done, there was a study done and it shows how bad the availability of parking as you move from the post office down towards the Opera House. And it gets worse as you go down through the availability of parking. And the only place you can get this is behind the present buildings. And the money, if we could build up enough of reserve, we can watch for available land that might be available to accommodate more parking for Main Street. And since they're working on the Mill Street project area down through there, any land that could be obtained, there's always a benefit for parking for Main Street, and it would help fund it through the parking meter fund. Only a suggestion.
Okay. Okay.
I apologize if this has already been brought up. I don't know if it has, but Channel 2 is no longer being broadcast to the general public. The cable company now has gone and made it mandatory for anybody to watch Channel 2 and all the Littleton programming that they have to buy a cable box. I strongly urge the board to address this and have it corrected. A lot of people in town, you know, they shouldn't be having to pay for this. And, you know, that is public access television. And, you know, you're cutting 2/3 of the public who aren't paying for these cable boxes, so they can't watch anything that's on Channel 2.
Eddie?
To help answer that question, I'm glad you brought it up. If you have a fairly new TV set, which I don't, so still operating 20 years ago, but anyway, the new TV sets, a lot of them can be reprogrammed. If you reprogram your TV set to, like you just got a new set and you're going to hook it up to the cable and you're going to program it for the channels. If you reprogram it, it's a good chance that a new TV set will pick this up. If it doesn't, you can go up on Union Street to the office. You can pick up a box, not very big, pretty small, at no charge, something for nothing, that you can take home and hook it up to your TV set and receive Channel 2.
Oh, good. Okay.
And that's available for another year or so, anytime you want to do that. But first, if you got a new set, try it through reprogramming the channels. Now, of course, all you have heard me on Channel 2 that can't see it, won't get no benefit out of this.
Yes, but we do have printed media here.
But if the printed media will say something about it, and if you got a neighbor that has a TV set that can't watch it, and you
now
can,
have a challenge,
tell him.
printed media.
Well, we had a brand new TV, and the only reason I knew, I was programming it last night, and I guess you could say the error message popped up.
You have to have your kids program it.
Well, that's what I was doing it for. But it said basically you have to buy, you know, go to the office and get a cable box.
Yeah.
And as long as it's for free.
That's what we did.
But I'm in hopes that the board also says, you know, in a year that they still say, well, now we're going to charge for it.
They're going to charge you 99 cents a month.
Yeah, see, that's
After a year or two or whatever. But most of your new sets will pick it up. So they told me.
Yeah, they'll
This came from Time Warner.
All right, anything else? Okay, Highway Department report.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to combine the Highway Department and Town Manager's report, if that's okay, with the idea that the last full Highway Department report was only 2 weeks ago, and that we'll bring back an update as to what we're doing on most of our capital projects on the 23rd. But starting out with the highway report, each selectman has a copy of the new 10-year plan At 3 o'clock this afternoon, Executive Council Burton held a meeting here, what's called the Governor's Advisory Commission on Intermodal Transportation, and reviewed the projects, 10-year projects from 2015 to 2024, and took public testimony. And my comment for that was that I really would like to have the Department of Transportation coordinate well with the town on the Union Street culvert replacement projects across from the Beltway, and coordinate with our Safe Routes to School project. Mentioned the highest complaint areas that I'm receiving, Route 135, condition of that road, the scalloping or gullwing of Main Street here due to the heavy truck traffic, the lack of a crosswalk between the Beatty House and the Littleton Food Co-op as a pedestrian safety issue, and the Old County Road intersection problems. Today's hearing was really dealing primarily with federal funds, and when you look at the projects in the 10-year plan, it only deals with the federal funded projects, and those are primarily the interstate projects in the town of Littleton. But please take a look at that and add any comments. Interestingly, there's quite a bit of discussion today about extending the Rails to Trails project beyond Wing Road to Whitefield. And I think some of the proponents of that felt as though with the success of the Gorham RV trail connection, that if we could get connected to Whitefield, then that would be a through connection to those Gorham trail systems also. So that was quite interesting. We did replace a dry well at the Littleton landfill. It had been a non-productive well for a number of years, and the state finally ordered the town to extend the depth of that well so that it is a productive well. Fortunately, we only had to drill another 9 feet. It's on the far western end of the landfill, so that work was completed last week. We received the first delivery of pellets for the new pellet boiler today, 9 tons, and training for that and startup for that facility will occur next Monday. We have Public Works Supervisor position interviews this week to begin the fulfillment of that position. And I guess with all of the Public Works projects that we've started this summer, the only one that we really haven't made much of any progress on is the West Main Street retaining wall.
I had that as a question. So.
Okay. And the reason for that is that the utility pole that is affected, it's right between the sidewalk and West Main Street. Water and Light would really like that relocated. The only place, or the best place to relocate it is on private property, and staff has met with the property owners on several occasions with Water and Light, and have given them several options as to how we can best relocate the utility pole, preserve their sign for their business, and provide power to their building, and they haven't responded yet, so we're still working on them. I did have staff look into the possibility of putting in a sheet metal type piling wall so that we wouldn't need to do much excavation there, and I think that would be cost prohibitive, so we're still working on options.
Fred, there is one utility pole already on the property. It's on the other end, and it sits, where the retaining wall comes down, it sits right there.
Right, yeah.
So is Water and Light proposing to put the one that's now in the street parallel to
Well, I think they'd like to put it where their current sign is,
Oh.
and then move their sign to, there's a little island, they have 2 entrances, and move the sign to that island at the town's cost to relocate that. But the concern was, I think, the aesthetics of moving that utility pole closer to their business.
So what happens if they don't come back with a decision?
Well, then I think we'll have to decide what to do and either continue to try and work with them on other alternatives, or work with Water and Light to, I mean, I think that pole is in need of replacement regardless.
Right.
And see if Water and Light would replace the pole, remove it temporarily while we do the sidewalk work, and then reinstall it.
We do want to try to get that done though before the snowfall.
I would like to. I can't promise you that'll happen, but I think we still have enough time if we can get the issue resolved.
Our warrant article wasn't time limited, was it, in terms of
No.
how to? Right. Thanks.
And just a notice that the, if you recall, the southbound on-ramp of Interstate 93 at exit 41 has been closed for the last month. That's reopened, and now the northbound on-ramp is closed. So that'll be closed for at least another month. So plan accordingly. And that concludes my report.
All right, old business, what do we got?
Have any old business?
Old business. How about new business? Annual Littleton Art Festival. Request to cover on...
Yeah, there's a word missing on that. Request to cover parking meters. So that's 2 words.
I was wondering. Okay, so, how do we feel about that? I don't have a problem. Okay.
They've done this now.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, sounds good. All right.
Do you need a motion, or is this okay?
I think if you just concur that that is we can use my executive authority to make that.
All right, other business. Why don't we wait until Marty gets back?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Oh, chief. Yes.
I don't represent the chamber, but I do know that in years past, they've also requested to cone off the parking spaces on Main Street at about, I think they start doing it about 2 or 3 in the morning to prevent individuals from parking in the parking spaces on Main Street so that the artisans can come in prior to 9 a.m. and then the cones are removed, and then it's free parking based on you granting that for the rest of the day. So if you could allow that as well, and pass it on to the
This is
chamber.
what we've been doing right along?
Yes,
Sure. Okay, you got the nod.
thank you.
Okay. Why don't we hold off on the approval of the minutes until Marty is back?
Okay.
All right. We have any non-public stuff to do?
I do not.
Okay, all right. I guess we're all set here. And we are, there any other questions, concerns? All right, then
Motion to adjourn.
I second that.